20% of the world's oil flows through a single narrow choke point in the Middle East. If the Strait of Hormuz closes, the global economy shuts down. Right now, that threat is higher than it has been in decades. On the surface, Washington is projecting confidence. The U.S. recently submitted a 9-point proposal outlining steps to de-escalate tensions in the region, creating the appearance that diplomacy is working. Iran shattered that illusion almost immediately. Operating through Pakistani intermediaries, Tehran fired back a strict 14-point counterproposal of its own. These 14 points leave zero room for compromise. Tehran demands the immediate release of all frozen Iranian assets, full financial compensation from the U.S. and Israel for war damages, and a complete end to the American naval blockade. Most critically, Iran requires a hard stop to all regional fighting. They want an immediate halt to military campaigns on every front, specifically calling out operations in Lebanon and Gaza. This map of the Strait of Hormuz shows why Tehran feels it can dictate these terms. Iran has given Washington 30 days to accept their demands. If the clock runs out, a new Iranian draft law dictates that hostile nations will be permanently barred from passing through these waters. Publicly, Donald Trump has suggested that a diplomatic deal with Iran could realistically be signed by next month. But open-source flight data paints a different picture. Over the last few days, aviation trackers have monitored a massive influx of heavy American transport planes flying directly into the Middle East. These Boeing C-17 Globemasters and Lockheed C-5 Super Galaxies provide the heavy lift capacity needed to move main battle tanks, artillery, and tons of ammunition into a combat theater on a moment's notice. While the cargo arrives, the Pentagon is making sure no one sees what is already broken. The U.S. administration is actively instructing private satellite imagery firms to withhold photographs of American military bases damaged by recent Iranian strikes. Washington is using this 30-day diplomatic window to silently fortify its military posture, while carefully obscuring its operational vulnerabilities from the rest of the world. On the Israeli side, the chances of accepting Iran's ceasefire demands are low. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is currently navigating a severe internal crisis. He faces intense domestic legal pressure, anchored by multiple high-profile corruption trials that have been looming over him for years. The ongoing war provides him with a crucial political shield. As long as the military campaigns continue, general elections are delayed. The moment a ceasefire is signed, those elections will trigger, and losing power likely means facing a prison sentence. To escape this trap, Netanyahu's back-channel strategy relies on securing a preemptive presidential pardon. He has leaned heavily on American allies to pressure Israel's president, Isaac Herzog, into granting him absolute immunity. The math here is brutal. The continuation of military campaigns across the region is heavily tied to the personal and political survival of one man. Iran, meanwhile, is not sitting back and waiting for the 30-day timer to expire. State-run Iranian television is already openly broadcasting target lists featuring high-ranking Israeli ministers, signaling that Tehran's crosshairs are locked. In southern Lebanon, Hezbollah has ramped up its offensives, launching a series of direct artillery strikes against Israeli military vehicles and troop concentrations. The tension is spreading into the surrounding waters. A new geopolitical axis is taking shape, with Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia quietly aligning their maritime interests against Israel. These powers are competing for dominance over critical logistical routes, specifically focusing on the disputed Somaliland Channel, where Egypt and Turkey have agreed to expand their naval footprint. Instead of winding down, the Middle East is rapidly fracturing into heavily armed opposing alliances, actively preparing for a larger fight. There is a massive disconnect between the public narrative and the reality on the ground. Politicians are making statements about peace treaties, while their respective militaries are quietly loading weapons. The deadlocks are rigid. Netanyahu cannot afford peace. Washington refuses Iran's 14 points, and Tehran is visibly preparing its missile forces for massive retaliation. This 30-day ultimatum is a smokescreen. It gives both sides exactly enough time to reposition their fleets, fuel their heavy transport planes, and finalize their strategic strike capabilities. Military logic is now overriding diplomatic efforts. The next phase of this crisis will likely play out in the dark waters of the Middle East, and the rest of the world must brace for the fallout.